Made better sense.
All right. Live. Thank you, everyone, for that brief recess. Welcome back to Cruise Operations. We like maps. But right now, what we're gonna focus on is H53, and that relating to creating a preference for military spouses in hiring into state employment. And we have back with us counsel, for a discussion on the words on the page. How you doing, counsel?
Very well, thank you. Good afternoon, Sophie Zadatny for the Office of Legislative Counsel. We did do a walkthrough of this on January 8th, so I'm just circling back on that. Is it okay if I go ahead and share my screen?
I would love nothing more. Thank you.
Okay. Thumbs up, yes. All right. So this is a bill that would give preference to military spouses for state employment. And there are two components to it. So the first one is here at the top of the second page, which provides that after the requirements of an applicable collective bargaining agreement have been satisfied, and after compliance with subsection 327A, and what 327A is, and I can pull that up if you want to see it, but that is just that there's a preference in state employment for filling positions internally. So once that's been satisfied and consistent with affirmative action standards, then the state shall make a diligent effort to recruit, interview, and hire. And then there are a list of preferences. So the first one under A is veterans. The second is the spouses of veterans. And then the new language would add the spouses of personnel currently serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. So this would give a preference in hiring into state employment. The state shall make a diligent effort to recruit, interview, and hire military spouses is what this would be seeking to do. And then the second component would be that to the extent there are competitive examinations, which, zipping around here, that the spouses of personnel currently serving in the U.S. Armed Forces would receive an additional 5 points on a competitive examination that they have passed. And I think I'd explained before, but the Department of Human Resources had explained that, in fact, Vermont doesn't really use competitive examinations much, but they do use them for law enforcement. So that's sort of the only area where that would come in. There are two prongs here, and the first prong is, again, just a general preference to hire into state employment, again, consistent with state bargaining agreements and, filling vacant positions with internal candidates and any affirmative action standards, but then you would be looking at a preference for U.S. military spouses.
Rep. Hooper Burlington has a raised eyebrow.
So because the law will specifically say that the contract supersedes the law. The law does not then supersede the contract.
Right. So it's saying after the requirement. So the collective, whatever is in the collective bargaining agreement around hiring or filling positions internally, whatever, that would take precedence. But then once you've dealt with that, then you would have these preferences for veterans, veteran spouses, and military spouses.
Okay. Let's see, I'm just scanning through this real quick. Reps Stone or Pisnall, since you're the sponsors of the bill, any commentary or feedback at this stage of the?
I just appreciate that you came back in, because I think when we heard from another witness, he was very hung up on the 5 points, only the points. And it's like, there's another interesting fact that I heard when I was going through this is for now, yes, the only people who get a point system are the police, but in the future, who's to say that all departments couldn't change? And then we kind of proactively cover ourselves. And the other important thing that I wanted to pull out is it's not just the point system. It's two-pronged, like you said. So I wanted you to highlight the first prong. It's two different things. It's just to cover all the bases. That's why this law was written the way it was. Thank you, Sophie, to make sure that we're covering every way that you can be hired in state employment. This bill's gonna hit it all. So. Yeah. It's much less, it's cleaner, it's clean, covers all the bases.
So did I hear you? Spoken glasses back. There's two ways of testing. One is a competitive, the answer to question A, and the other is a scaling. Where do you move certain criteria on a grid?
So this is
Does this
just
say specifically test?
No, so the first one is just, again, a diligent effort, so it's a preference to hire military spouses along with veterans and veteran spouses. The second piece is to the extent there are any point-based examinations, right? And so again, that as far as we know, it's only for sworn law enforcement positions that require a competitive examination rating.
Somebody came in from personnel.
Personnel, no.
Well,
No. That we have not heard from anyone from over there. We heard from Bob Burke.
my impression is still that dispatchers take a keying test and law enforcement and there are grading systems in use, but
Well, I'd reached out to John Barad at the Department of Human Resources when I was drafting the bill to ask him, because I figured that would be a question, like, well, how many positions have a competitive examination? And what he told me was that it was sworn law enforcement and the test could be done either by the hiring department or the police academy. So that, I mean, there may be other ones, but that was what he shared with
who
me.
did you say?
John Barad at the Department of Human
He
Resources.
should know.
So yeah, so who you're referring to was consulted by council.
Already reflected in that.
He's the walking up. The personnel.
Yes, but I guess what I'm saying is just clarifying that,
Might have to ask him a specific question.
okay. But I'm sorry, Council, did you say that they were consulted while you were drafting this?
Yeah, so I had
Yes,
reached
okay.
out because I was just curious, because I didn't know, well, how many, state positions do have competitive examinations, and that was what he shared with me.
Yes, no, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding that correctly from what you spoke to and what Bob was speaking towards. Rep. Coffin.
Yeah, so I know a lot of talk about this point because there's talk about the point system and the testing. But like the federal government, they use a qualification skill sheet questionnaire. And it's a grid system that your points are based on your qualifications and the skills listed in that questionnaire. And then that's where the additional points are added. I don't know if state police use that same system or not, or how they do it, but it's not for the most of what we're saying, the point system, I think it's involving places that use that grid system more often than written exam. Was my understanding of this.
But I just want to keep
Representative.
saying that this bill is not just about a point system. It is two-pronged. Point
Yes.
system and, so I don't want us to perseverate on jobs that do or do not use a grid or point system.
Mhm.
Because the large majority of them don't, that's what we're hearing, but they could in the future, and that's why it's important to be proactive about this. But it's two-pronged. It's covering all the jobs, again, point system or not. The language that Sophie crafted after consultation with HR folks covers all the bases.
And that's
Over.
kind of a critical question about whether it's test or examination. Examination is broader, and I think that.
And again, this is just language that's currently in the statute that's been in there. So again, yeah, someone from the Department of Human Resources would be in the best position to talk about how they do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rep. Stone's point's taken with it having a two avenue focus. And spoke to HR. I'm sorry, I'm just running through all of this in my head right now. I love having broad subject matter in this committee, but sometimes it really creates a long jam of thought in my head. So, well, I guess Representative Hooper, are there any other entities that you feel a need to, I mean, we're gonna work on this. It's been identified to be included in sort of our omnibus military and veterans affairs bill. But if you have any like particular questions on this, like you don't have to say it now.
Gerard was the director of labor relations.
Say again, I'm sorry.
Gerard was the director of labor relations. Is that still his title?
I don't know if it is right this minute, but the last time that I saw him testify, it was last
So,
session.
I don't know that he would necessarily be the nuts and bolts of who does everything in classification, but he should certainly be in charge of them. If he shows up. I think we can put the issue to bed.
So. The consultation already with the drafting gives me comfort that it like touched on the components that were necessary. I'll ask. I did already say when Rep. Stone and I were going through bills, a list of bills to identify for inclusion in this out of this military veteran affairs bill that we're developing. This is one of the components. So I think I want to ask the committee to just stew on whether or not the inclusion of this first and foremost, and then any testimony for folks that they might want to hear on this. And then once we start identifying the other bills, I'd like to see where those interested parties or government positions could speak to more than one of the components of the bill, if there is intersecting points, so we could bring them in on a couple of pieces instead of doing one here, one there. And that's just one of my overarching sort of like management goals for developing these omnibus bills, was if we're speaking to multiple sections that are bills being inserted, to be able to have witness testimony address multiple parts instead of having fragmented testimony. That's just more of an organizational goal. Does anybody else have any questions at the moment? Right. So. Okay, anything else for council at the moment? Nope. Could you send out a Hay Trooper?
He's in
Yeah, I know. So if there's nothing else for council, thank you, council, for that clarification on the existing words on the page. It's really appreciated.
Welcome.
And feel free to take us off for a minute until we get it over here.